Hello and welcome into this week's Cosmic Prayer on New Thought Media Network. Of course, this is where the Cosmic Prayer takes place every Monday at this time. And I'm Reverend.Laura, and I invite guests in, super guests, to come in every single week, a new and interesting and inspirational leader of light and love comes onto the show to share their idea, to share their own inspirations around prayer, and to share their teachings and their wisdom about prayer and how it's informed their lives. And this week, of course, as with every week, and this week, though, we have a beloved guest, somebody that I have met a few times journeying the adventure of ministerial education, as he is just about to complete. Let's celebrate his completion of ministerial education at Holmes Institute. And he's also a licensed practitioner, Centers for Spiritual Living licensed practitioner. James Stallcup is here waiting in the wings. I just want to share a little bit about him that I didn't know, that he's had a calling to be a minister for a while, and this was brought forward by a powerful experience that he had in a class with Reverend Cynthia James, who's also been here on the Cosmic Prayer Show. And this was a metaphysical event, and it was extraordinary, vibrant, and deeply impactful for James's idea of who he is. He's been a life coach for over 25 years, embracing teachings from the landmark education, fantastic, and also other spiritual teachers. And he specializes in coaching and assisting parents and teens, bringing them together in mediated sessions, providing safe and powerfully grounded contexts for transformational growth. This is so powerful. James honors all people and is a foundational way, this honoring of people. He knows that he is called to invite forwards their authentic power, assisting them with this. And James is passionate, outgoing, gregarious, and a lover of life. I love it. Let's bring on James. Welcome to the Cosmic Prayer today.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Thank you for being here and shining your light and awareness on prayer. And I know that we kind of set a date for you to come on. It was probably about a year ago now.
Yeah.
And here we are. Always, it's perfectly orchestrated, isn't it? How it happens. And you're here. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. So I'm interested in your idea of prayer and what called you to, first of all, what called you into ministry? Because I love this piece about you having this experience or revelation, maybe epiphany in a class, and understanding that this is what you're called to be, a minister, to be ministering in the world today, which is really powerful, and how prayer has informed your life up to this point.
Very good. Yes, it was some 20 years ago that I was taking a class with Reverend Cynthia James, and she was up on the stage and she was talking about her childhood, and I realized that she didn't have any victimhood about all the challenges that she'd experienced. And I was sitting there in my chair, and I realized that I was being kind of taken apart by what she was sharing. And I tentatively raised my hand, and I said, I think I'm having a crisis in faith, a break in faith. And she walked out off the stage down to where I was sitting, and she said, would you stand up? And here I am. I'm new in religious science. I haven't taken this. This is my first or second class. And I kind of look around. It's like, okay, I'll stand up. And I stood up, and she said, can I hold your hands? And once again, I was kind of tentative. It's like I kind of look around a little bit, and I say yes. I say, okay, yeah, I'll hold your hands. And Reverend Cynthia looks me right in the eye, and she says, I'll hold faith for you as you walk towards it. And when she said that, something crumbled inside of me. Resistance from the past, challenges that I'd experienced as a child in a Protestant religion. And I just started crying, snot everywhere, It was just like, it just felt like I was just being vacuumed out almost. And in that same class, I think it was a week or two later, she was talking about something up on stage, once again, her childhood. And I could feel myself in her sharing. I could feel my experiences in her sharing. And I was sitting there in my chair, and some sort of download just went through me, some sort of energetic experience that was profound, something I had never experienced before. And I kind of fell over in my chair. I didn't fall off my chair, but I kind of bent down in my chair. And I don't know how long it lasted, but there was this several minutes of this energetic experience. And when I raised back up and took a breath, and I realized that I was a minister waiting to take all these classes. And that was my calling, to be a minister. And that call has not wavered one iota. That calling, like I can, as I'm speaking about it, I experience the calling like it's happening right now, 15 or 18 years later. So I'm pointing to Reverend Cynthia James, but there's thousands, probably millions of people on this planet that are light holders, that are light beings on the planet. And as we share that light, we inspire other people. We give other people permission to invite forward their light.
Oh, that happening for you is so dynamic. When we have a dynamic experience, a God felt experience, that we can't always put a labeled. I mean, I had a similar experience 10 years ago in a labyrinth, and it took me 2 years to be able to actually talk about it.
Yes.
It's like, oh my gosh. And I didn't even know ministry existed, because I'm in the UK, and so I really had no idea that this is what I was being called. And I'm really hearing from you is that even when you were in that place of having this crisis of faith, as you call it, how that flipped for you, how you opened your heart. And of course, we have these people, as you say, that are light carriers and love bearers, and they're like the doulas that open up the portal for us.
Yes.
And she was there.
Yes.
And yet it took you to acknowledge all of this, and to actually say, yes, I'm going to, hold that beacon of that torch, and which you've done up till now, because you're coming through ministerial school, you're completing now your final class. And I think, wow, this is amazing.
Yes.
And what a wonderful confirmation that 18 years ago you held this and knew it, and here you are right now, having your life completely transformed or alchemized, as you said before in the prayer, this alchemy. So I love this, because whoever's listening can hear your story and know that anything is possible.
Yes.
That it's all possible in God. Did you use prayer prior to this? What was prayer for you then?
No. For most of my life, I lived in the scientific model only. You'd mentioned landmark education earlier, and I think it was 1993. I took their first class, and one of the things that happens in that class is that people get access to empty and meaningless. Like everything is empty and meaningless, and we give meaning to everything inside of our head or our heart.
Yeah.
And as I had that epiphany, that wake up call in 1993 of, oh, well, I give meaning to everything. Then I started looking at that scientific model only. Well, gosh,
Right.
if I give meaning to everything, is there something more than just the scientific model? And that started my spiritual journey. And I started reaching out to spiritual teachers, and teacher after teacher after teacher from 1993 till now. I've probably had, maybe 25 or maybe more than that with ministerial school, because every teacher in our classes is a spiritual teacher. Anyway, lots of spiritual teachers through the years. And that, I'm going to call it a dance, that dance of the internal awakening, because that was what was happening.
Yes.
There was an internal awakening taking place.
Yes.
And I'm actually getting goosebumps all over my body. The
Yes.
truth is present.
Yeah, I can feel that.
Yeah, that internal awakening. It happens every morning in my spiritual practice. Every morning when I pray and meditate, there's more of that internal awakening. There's more of that saying yes. And I actually wanted to backtrack. Can I just keep going here for a second, Laura?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yes, it's a yes from me.
I want to backtrack to when I was in Reverend Cynthia's class. And she was modeling for me growth and development. Reverend Cynthia was modeling for me, saying yes to that internal goddess inside of me. And one of the things I had to do, didn't have to do, but I chose to do. One of the things I chose to do 18 years ago was to notice my fear, because I was really afraid. When I was sharing earlier, she said, "Would you stand up, please?" And I'm looking around. What I was doing was I was checking to see if it was safe. That internal fear that all human beings have, by the way, from my perspective. All human beings have that internal fear. And one of the things I did is I chose to say yes. I chose to surrender the fear that was inside of me. And that process of surrender, the surrender of the fear, was something that happened basically every time I had a spiritual teacher, or every time I read a book and had an epiphany. Basically every time that's happened, I've had to bump up against that internal fear and surrender it. Say yes. I surrender my fear. I say yes to that exquisite occurrence called God and Goddess and Spirit inside of me.
Yes. And what I'm really feeling and knowing from you right now is that we have this opportunity in every moment to tap into this. We have this, and we're always going to have fears that come up. We're always going, because there's a polarity. And even if we're scared or in fear of being in prayer and connecting and uniting with the divine, for some people, I think that may be scary to actually open up and to surrender and to give away a sense of, well, you talked about meaning, putting meaning into everything. And I think when I'm praying, I'm relieving myself of the meaning that I place on this, and I'm surrendering to the unknown and the unseen, which I know is here because I can feel it. And yet I can't see it unless I look around me and see it and know it. There is an unseen essence that placing faith in that can be scary.
Yes. Yeah, I remember when I was first being taught to pray, I was taking the 6 initial classes at the church here in Denver, and I was first being taught to pray, and the teachers talked about praying out loud.
Yeah.
And I remember having hesitancy, because I've been toying with praying inside my head, silently, if you will. But I think the first time one of the teachers talked about, well, try doing it out loud. It was like, what? What? You want me to pray out loud? That sounds dangerous, And then as I started practicing, by myself in my room when I was meditating, and praying, as I started praying out loud with myself, I realized that there was this opportunity to use my voice to pray for other people. And that's when I had the intuition that I wanted to start doing practitioner training, the 2-year program that teaches people how to be a practitioner in Centers for Spiritual Living. And that process, like you were just talking about, I'm going to call it the ineffable, the goddess, that is all around and all through us, it came to the forefront much differently once I started praying out loud.
Yes. Yes, because for me, praying out loud, I mean, I love praying within. I feel, and praying out loud too, because I feel that it's also overcoming that shame part of having my voice heard, even growing up as a child, you know, that I was to be quiet and be a good girl and, you know, and not voice my opinion. And I think praying out loud can be really, really empowering to overcome any sense of feeling fear or shame or embarrassment. To pray out loud, it's like, yeah, and I'm speaking to this or with this ineffable essence that that I'm united with, that is not outside or apart from me, because there's no outside. So I'm speaking my truth, and it's a very empowering thing, I believe.
Yes.
If we can get to that place of stating it out loud.
Yes.
And knowing also that what we're declaring is actually the prayer in process. It will come to pass as we believe.
Yes. Yes. Well said. Yeah. There's this. Go ahead, please.
Oh, no. Carry on. You were going to just say something.
I was going to speak about my prayer process currently.
Please do.
There's an energetic piece. There's something that moves through me from outside of me, and there's something that erupts inside of me as I pray. And there's actually energy that moves.
And do you feel that, do you connect with that back to your experience that you had with when you were with Reverend Cynthia? That same feeling, that same, it's like a magnetism of like just a moving through and a coming within and going without, and it's all one, like a swirling. I mean, that's, for me, that's what happens.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And it's different from day to day, you know, depending upon, you know, how I've meditated, et cetera, you know, all the circumstances of our life. But yeah, definitely. Reverend Cynthia is a powerful prayer, very dynamic. And you spoke about her being on the show. So people that might have seen her before might have had an experience of her, but she's a dynamic prayer. And as she prayed up on stage 18 years ago, she was modeling for me. Excuse me. She was modeling for me. It's like, oh, there was a feeling. And I remember sitting in that audience. I remember there was a feeling. It's like, whoa, she's got something that I got too. You know, there's something inside of me that is kind of started bubbling, you know?
Yes.
And like I spoke earlier, you know, I've had many spiritual teachers, and each one has modeled a different flavor of connection, a different flavor of prayer. You know, everyone's personality is different. You know, everyone's connection is different. So we all pray differently. And every time, going back to your question earlier, every time someone else prays, there is an experience for me of, oh yeah, I got that too. I got my own flavor of that. And from my perspective, every person on the planet, whether they know it or not, they have their own connection. Every person on the planet has their own ability to say yes to their internal light and their internal ability to pray and connect.
And so when you discovered this, or when you experienced this, you know, for many people, I hear that they discover prayer through science of mind or affirmative prayer, spiritual mind treatment, because they entered a center and they didn't want to go, but a friend said, you know, if you come with me to this center, you know, you're going to love it. And I hear that a lot. And I hear people saying, I read a book, I read Science of Mind textbook, I read You Can Change Your Life, I read this thing called Life, and it allowed me to investigate centers for spiritual living. And, you know, we all find our way in to this teaching and this philosophy in a different way. And what I'm hearing from you is, or you discovered the power of this teaching because you were already in a class, and then that really accelerated through the experience that you had, accelerated your yearning to then, yeah, I've got to be a minister in this.
Yes.
And to be that model that Cynthia James is, to understand how to become that model that she's modeling.
Yes.
She was modeling to you at that point. And of course, we don't. Not everybody goes that far to say,
Yep.
"Oh, this is happening, so I'm going to be a minister."
Yep.
Some people say, "Right, this is happening, and I'd like to change my life. I'd like to change my finances. I'd like to have better relationships." And so, from that perspective, could you share a little on how your life has changed in the physical, or transformed in the physical outpicturing? What has happened over 18 years for you since that moment? How is your life different now?
Big question. Literally thousands of transformations through that 18 years. Literally, literally. And so let me just give you some concrete examples. For about a year now, I've been doing something called intermittent daily fasting, which means I don't eat my first meal till midday, and then I eat 2 more meals after that. And I'm not. Is this
2 more?
Yeah. I'm sorry.
2 more meals after that.
Correct. Yeah. Anyway,
Okay.
so what's happened with that is, as I put less and less food into my body, I have a stronger and stronger relationship to spirit. From childhood, I would use food as something to make me feel better, and I was always overweight, until, well, I'm still a little bit overweight now. But anyway, I used food since I was a very young child to make myself feel better inside of childhood trauma. I think everyone experiences childhood trauma on some level. And as I've danced with intermittent fasting, it feels like there's less of a veil. The food in my body is actually a veil to my connection and to my spiritual growth. And this I'm going to call it a cleanliness, because it's a physical cleanliness, but it's also an extraordinarily spiritual cleanliness. This is one of my latest transformations in the last year or so. But I want to speak about my relationship to myself too. I'm drawn to growth and development. And one of the things I've been doing for the last couple of years is something called subconscious cellular release. And what this is, the counselor I work with has been trained to literally remove trauma from my subconscious. And when the subconscious has that trauma removed, I'm massively different.
Yes.
After each session, it takes me several days. When I first started doing it about a year ago, it took me weeks to actually get to know who I was without that veil of trauma.
Yes.
Because the trauma is removed. And then I get the opportunity to find out who James is without that particular chunk of trauma, if you will.
Yes.
And once again, my spiritual growth and development just skyrockets every time a chunk of trauma is removed, because the trauma wants to keep us stuck.
Yes.
It's a subconscious process where our subconscious thinks that the trauma is important and it has to be there. Otherwise, we're going to die.
Right.
And so when the trauma is removed, all of a sudden, I have access to parts of James that I've never even known about before. I have access to meditating. These exquisite meditations take place wherein the whole universe arises inside of me. The whole universe dances the dance of oneness in, around, and through me. And this is because of the trauma being removed. So, Centers for Spiritual Living is magnificent. And, I'm still taking classes. And I've been taking classes pretty much ongoingly for 18 years. It's magnificent and it's beautiful and it's powerful. But I would invite anybody who's watching to be open to saying yes to other modalities, other processes of counseling, or what, there's literally thousands of different
Yeah.
modalities, nature work, working with a shaman,
Yeah.
Shaw woman.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be my invitation for people, is to be listening powerfully to what is being asked, to listen powerfully for that extraordinary dance of oneness that arises when we do that growth and development work.
And I believe what you're saying is so pertinent for now, because Centers for Spiritual Living and the work of Ernest Holmes and the New Thought greats and ancient wisdom teachings and quantum physics and neuroscience, it's almost as if we're being offered this incredible plethora of ways to be invited into to work with divinity in different ways. And science of mind is one way, and we're open at the top, which means that we can discover ourselves, and our self with a capital S, the self we can discover in ways that feel good for us in the moment. If it's doing really ecstatic dance work, then that's it, because that's freeing us from in the body, or whatever modality it is. And I'm realizing more and more mindfulness is an amazing thing, because it's almost like, for some people, even for me, sometimes it's difficult to get into that place with spiritual mind treatment, which is a 5-step process. For anyone that isn't sure of that right now, it's a 5-step process of affirmative prayer, how we get into the knowing of who we are. Sometimes it's not easy to get to even to that place, to know that there is one. And mindfulness can be an amazing kind of elementary, although it's not elemental, I don't mean it in that way, but like a first step to, let's be mindful first. Mindful of who I am, where I am, what is going on in the present moment, and then jumping into spiritual mind treatment.
Yes.
And yeah, there's so many different ways, aren't there, of bringing prayer forwards in our lives, for our lives.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, what I hear is breath. There's breath work. From the reading that I've done in the classes I've taken, breath is elemental in every single religion. Breath is elemental in every new thought movement. Breath, any new thought teacher you see, Michael Beckwith or whoever, they always talk about the breath. And that process of closing the eyes and breathing deep inside and exhaling, that whole process of breathing in and exhaling out, there's magic there. There's super beautiful magic there. Some teachers talk about how the two parts of the brain connect, the pituitary and the thymus, they connect. And when those two brains, those two parts of our brain energetically connect, boom, there's some sort of connectivity. There's some sort of opening that takes place for us, some connection to all of it, if you will. So that's one of the things I heard in your talking about mindfulness is, for me, like the very first thing, anytime I pray, anytime Laura and I prayed in before this, and what I did is, let's take that holy breath. Let's take that sacred breath. Let's breathe in and breathe out. And that's always the context for me to any prayer, is breath first. And then what that can do is that can invite off any circumstances, anything that's going on in your life, maybe thoughts in your head. As you turn your attention to the breath, presence can arise. And that can be a powerful foundation for mindfulness and for affirmative prayer.
Yes, and it brings us to the present moment as well, to allowing ourselves to just be in this moment and dissolving any wandering thoughts of fear and uncertainty. So how do you think we can use prayer, James, in a really powerful way for how we're for what we're experiencing now in our individual worlds, to really elevate this idea and knowing of oneness. How
Yeah,
do you think we can use that,
yeah,
this practice?
yeah, the first thing I'd say about that is that I've been doing some reading, and they talk about one of the most powerful words, or four of the most powerful words are I am, we are.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say it again. I am, we are. And I read that for the first time a couple weeks ago, and it's been working me hard. And I've been delving into shifting my perception from me to we.
Right.
That walk that we walk, where
Yes.
as human beings, it's important for us to have an I point of view when we're walking across the street, not to get run over by a bus. We have to have I points of view doing that. And as we shift our attention into we, or we shift our attention into a global perspective, or maybe even shift our attention into a family perspective, backtracking here a little bit, maybe we shift our perception into, oh, the people I live with, and have my attention there. Something magic happens. Something magic happens when we shift from I to we, and it's multimodal. I actually jumped from planetary to family, and that process in any situation we're in, whether we're starting to pray, or whether we're getting ready to go to work, or we're having a fight with our partner, when we can shift our attention from I to we, it creates possibility. It creates possibility for us to step into that we can't step into when we're in I.
Mm-hmm.
When we're in we, all of a sudden our perception gets bigger. And all of a sudden we can start maybe being in the other person's point of view.
Yes.
Instead of our point of view. Maybe we can be in the point of view of another country instead of the country that we're in here. Maybe we can be in a point of view about the whole planet,
Mm-hmm.
coming from that place of planetary, coming from the place of all of us together. That dance of shifting from I to we is extraordinarily beautiful.
And I'm really feeling this, the word that's coming through, or the feeling that's coming through for me, is empathy. That coming from I to we, that I can remove my own agenda from the experience and the situation, and I can allow myself to mold in and shape into another's experience, and to be the listening and the support and the compassion for that. And I think I love what you've just said, because although we all know this, well, we may not all know it, but although we may all want to know it,
Yes,
the practice of it is something different, isn't it? Because
it is.
we have been in an I-centric idea of how to live for so long, and there is an opening happening. I believe there is
Thank you.
it is happening. I mean, even now, COVID has brought this on. Post-COVID, we're here online doing this,
Yes.
talking about this right now. Maybe 3 years we would not have been doing this. We would have been in a center listening to a spiritual teacher talking about it. And here we are having a conversation about it through an idea of prayer.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, the whole shift from I to we is a beautiful way to start an affirmative prayer. That in the 5-step treatment that Laura was talking about earlier, the spiritual mind treatment, I like to call it affirmative prayer. It seems like affirmative prayer is more accessible. Spiritual mind treatment just feels,
takes it out on a limb somewhere.
Yeah, and I get it. I understand, but I like to call it affirmative prayer. I actually just call it prayer. But
Yeah.
That whole process of internally shifting from I to we getting a larger point of view is really one of the first step in affirmative prayer. We're noticing that spirit is all through us and spirit is all around us.
Mm-hmm.
And that process of going to we, that process of feeling, the whole family or feeling the whole city or whatever, that process of expansion sets the stage for a super beautiful and powerful affirmative prayer.
So explain, we have a little bit of time left. I think we do. Yeah, let's do this. Let me just share here that I'm here with the amazing beloved James Stallcup, who is of course, a licensed practitioner, Centers for Spiritual Living practitioner, and just stepping into ministering. He's coming to the final phase of education here, but it's not a final phase of education, because what I hear
Yes.
is that James is a lifelong learner and a student of truth, and maybe not seeking, but yet unraveling and unfolding through himself, using himself as this extraordinary example of how to be in the world, in this world that we're in, and in his own world. And I really am excited about you stepping into ministry and how you will be ministering. And I know that you are entering into the role of leadership in whatever way that takes shape right now with CSL Boulder Valley in Colorado, that you're going to be more present there and sharing your wisdom and open to teaching and learning through this entity of Boulder Valley. So that's really exciting. I'm excited for you, and I'm holding this space that you'll be back here on the Cosmic Prayer next year when you've licensed and like, oh my gosh, this conversation is going to go even deeper. Yes. I can feel it. And so what is it that you would share, James, right now with anybody that's feeling, wow, this sounds amazing. Where do I start? I've never prayed before, or I've never used affirmative prayer. What would you say to that person? How would you explain the five pieces, if you like, of affirmative prayer, and just what each piece is relevant to?
Okay. Yeah, I guess the first thing I would say is I was raised in a pretty liberal Protestant religion, and we were trained. I was trained for years and years about praying to some energy outside of me. I was praying. Use the cliche here. I was praying to the white man with a white beard up on a white cloud. Up in the sky somewhere. So that was a big shift that actually took many years inside of taking my classes.
Oh, yes.
It took several years for me to shift out of all that conditioning and all that education I had to shift from something outside of me to something inside of me. And I'm getting goosebumps, the truth is present. That shift, that willingness, because it takes willingness, that willingness to notice Goddess inside of me, that willingness to breathe into the infinite inside of me, was really one of the first powerful steps of my journey inside of affirmative prayer. And there's nothing wrong with praying to something outside of us. There's nothing wrong with that. My invitation is to not judge that or make it wrong, because basically a lot of people on the planet pray that way. Pray to something outside of themselves. So it's not about anything being wrong. It's not about judgment. It's really just an invitation, an opportunity to say yes, to noticing that there's infinite oneness inside of every single human being. So that's a great way to start the conversation about the first step is noticing Goddess and spirit and God everywhere, all around, inside of every human being, inside of every rock. The chair I'm sitting on there's godness inside there. And as we have our eyes closed and we're breathing into it, that's it. Once again, I'm backtracking here a little bit, but that breath, taking that breath and noticing the breath is an important access to the 5-step process. So as one is breathing into God all around, the next piece is to notice God inside, goddess inside, spirit inside. I'm a big proponent for healing patriarchy, so I try to use goddess and spirit as well as God. Really, God doesn't have a sex from my perspective. I think the energy is more of an it. And almost every time I pray, I'm using some sort of goddess or God or spirit. So that would be my invitation, is that you use what you're comfortable with. That's really vital, is to be comfortable with this process of noticing spirit outside and spirit inside both. And once we're grounded in that all-pervading, ineffable, exquisite beauty that is inside and all around, that sets the stage for the next step. That sets the stage for saying, yes, who I am is oneness, and who I'll be today is I'm going to be oneness. That's my prayer for today, is oneness. And here's the piece: you can insert whatever you're creating in the moment right here. This is the insertion place. This is the place where you get to talk about, oh, who I'm going to be today is X, or the planet is suffused with peace. Peace is all through the whole entire planet. See, that's the cool thing about this prayer, is you can shift it and dance with it every single time. Basically, every time I pray, it's different. But that third step is where you really get to insert what you want, what you're praying about.
Yeah.
And then the fourth piece is giving thanks, having gratitude. Having gratitude is a super powerful way to not only anchor the prayer process, but gratitude is super powerful in our life from day to day, hour to hour, yes, minute to minute. So that's the fourth step, is giving thanksgiving, saying thank you. I am so grateful that peace is resonating through the entire planet. I am so grateful for this. I feel it in my heart. And then shifting into releasing. There's this exquisite structure, I'm going to call it a structure, called the love and the law. And these two things, these two pieces dance together. These two pieces are like this. The law is kind of like a structure, and the love is that unconditional, super high consciousness inside of us, and that unconditional love all around us through the entire universe. And as we release our prayer into that amalgamation, that alchemy of love and law, something happens. Some sort of magic takes place. Something goes click, and the universe says yes. And part of this whole process is a feeling. Mm-hmm. If you notice, I'm extraordinarily passionate. And not everyone's extraordinarily passionate. But everyone has access to feeling. Everyone has access to imagining. Everyone has access to saying yes to, oh, this is really going to happen. So that's another piece that I haven't talked about, but having feeling associated with your affirmative prayer, having passion if you're that kind of person, or whatever your authentic expression is, that's the kicker. Everyone does it different. Whatever your authentic expression is, that's the kicker. That's the invitation, is to have your authentic expression flow. If feeling and emotion and passion is part of it, play with that, because it can be a powerful supercharger for prayer. And then the last piece I do is I just breathe. I stay present in the moment as that prayer is released into the love and the law. I'm breathing. I'm noticing what's present with me, what's present in the moment. And quite often I keep my eyes closed for sometimes, several seconds, sometimes as much as a minute or two, as I
Yes.
feel that release as it moves out and blesses the universe.
This is powerful for anybody that is listening right now, or at any moment, go back to the beginning of this video and even to the beginning of this piece, because this was like a masterclass, a micro masterclass on spiritual mind treatment of how we can use affirmative prayer for our lives and to really empower the prayer practice, to know this prayer practice actually works. And I love that piece that you've just said about, putting ourselves into it, however we are. If we are passionate, be passionate. If we're calmer, be calm. Whatever it is, that it's our own shaping, our own take on this, and how we put our own selves into this. The key here is to know and to know and to know beyond a doubt that it is done.
Yes.
That it is done. And that's the piece, isn't it? That letting go, or the kind of setting ourselves aside from it and allowing the law, the love and the law to be, knowing it's done. What about when we don't believe? What happens then?
As human beings, from my perspective, we're constantly going in and out of not believing and believing.
Yeah.
And everyone has their own dance, how they do it. Everyone has their own experience. But I quite often, if I'm really hooked up, or I'm really angry, or I'm really upset, I'll quite often take a big old deep breath and just do a short prayer,
Yeah.
and I'm still angry. And almost always something, even sometimes it's really tiny, something almost always shifts. Something, an opening takes place, or a door cracks. So the way I do prayer is like I'm friggin' doing it all the time.
Yeah.
It's like several times a day, whether I'm hooked or upset or totally present. It's like it's a powerful tool all the time, and nothing's wrong. Nothing's wrong with what happens after the prayer. It's not about judgment. It's really just about the process and the experience, like you said, Laura, of knowing that this is a powerful process, and I'm really angry right now, but you know what? I'm going to use this process.
Yes. And also that there doesn't have to be anything wrong to pray.
Thank you.
That we can use it for anything. And I love
Yes.
that piece. You said the realization piece, which I know it as, and you called it just inserting in there whatever it is in the moment that we are becoming, or we want to be more of, or express more of for our lives, or know more about for our lives, that we can insert that in there. And so it's such a flexible tool and practice.
Yes.
Such an incredible tool that we can use. And what I'm really feeling is the piece of that. I think for me, I was brought up to believe that prayer, is this subjugating kind of to this, this God in the sky, white beard on a cloud, white cloud, and that it's kind of fear driven. That even the prayer is fear driven. It's like, ooh, yes, I'm going to be subservient and pray and then wait and see what happens. And how you've described this as how I know affirmative prayer to be is not fear driven. It's infinitely expansive.
Yes.
And it's love. It's love based.
Yes.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you so much, James, for being here and sharing on the Cosmic Prayer today, and for shining your light and your love and your passion. Here we are. I'm in the UK, you're in America, and it's absolutely translating through. And I know, and I'm sure for anybody that's watching right now can feel your absolute passion and just willingness to be with these practices and to evolve. And this piece about becoming a minister and taking all of that time and study and seeking, do you think you will ever stop learning?
No.
And no.
No, it's in my bones. It's in my soul.
Yeah. And if anybody would like to get to connect with you for practitioner practice because you do practitioner work with
I do.
people.
Yes, I do.
You do. So how can they connect with you?
My email is a really good way. Can you
Should we put
insert it?
this up?
Yeah, can you
Yeah, I
insert
can.
it?
I'm doing it now.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's my name, James
Yes.
dot
Yes.
Stallcup at
Yes.
gmail.com.
Fantastic. And that means then that you can be reached and you're available. And for anybody that's really interested in experiencing affirmative prayer and for sharing what it is that's going on in your world and for affirming a demonstration of this, James is your person. Here we are. There is the email address. Just connect with him and see what happens from there. That's exciting.
Yes,
And so, would you like to share a prayer here
I
at
would.
the end of the? Yes, you would. And what would the purpose of this prayer be for
Whew,
now?
great question. Yeah, this is another piece of the affirmative prayer is what I do is
Mm,
I close my eyes and get present in the moment and I feel and it's almost a surrender process. I surrender any thinking and I just invite spirit. I invite oneness. I invite presence forward to see what wants to be prayed.
mm,
And what's there is that whole process of shifting from I to we. So I'm going
yes.
to pray about that. Here we go. Take that sacred breath. Maybe in through the nose and out through the mouth. Take that breath wherein there is an acknowledgement of oneness deep inside. Take that breath wherein all of it dances with you. Take that breath and say yes to your internal divinity. You are goddess and God and spirit manifesting on the earth plane. And as this extraordinary field, this extraordinary energetic field arises, all beings are included. The entire planet resonates. The entire planet says yes as this prayer invites forward oneness. Whew, I give great thanks for Laura, Reverend Laura, to every week come online and to teach about this sacred, holy process called prayer, this affirmative prayer, this spiritual mind treatment. I give great thanks for her. And I give great thanks for any being that is watching this show. I bless you. You are an exquisite being of light. At the core of who you are is infinite beauty, infinite grace, infinite oneness. And I bless you. I invite forward every being on this planet to notice their internal light. That shift from I to we, wherein all beings say yes. All beings say yes to their internal light. And it explodes across the planet. And the planet vibrates and the planet says yes. And peace flows and blesses the planet. I give great thanks for this prayer process, and I give great thanks for each being on this call. And I notice that exquisite alchemy of love and law, and I release this prayer into that, knowing that this prayer is complete, knowing that I has shifted to we across the planet. I release this prayer with unconditional love, and so it is.
And so it is. And so it is. Thank you, James. Thank
Laura.
you for being here and for sharing and teaching and lighting the way and shining that light of love. I so appreciate you. And I know that your entry into ministering is absolutely dynamic. I know that it is absolutely a blessing for humanity right now. And I'm really grateful that you've come here onto the Cosmic Prayer today to share. Really perfect, really perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. This has been a privilege and a pleasure.
It's exciting. And I'm welcoming you back next year to share again, because I'm sure we'll have an updated, evolved, revealed
yes.
experience of prayer.
Yes.
And thank you to everybody that's been watching or will watch at any future point. This is a dynamic cosmic prayer, this particular one. So check it out from the beginning. If you haven't yet watched the beginning piece, go back and recap, and you're going to be absolutely inspired and empowered to use this practice and to use it for the embetterment of your life and everybody else's life on this planet. Because every time we pray for ourselves, we're doing this for everybody, each and every being. Yes. And so thank you also for tuning in to New Thought Media Network. We are a global focus ministry. Every single day, we're here with broadcasts and programs and shows and experiential conversations and music and love, sharing New Thought teachings and Science of Mind teachings and beyond. All sorts of amazing things happen here. So check us out on YouTube and like and subscribe. And of course, our website link is there with the donate button should you be inspired to tithe into this vision of these teachings that are really changing people's lives dynamically. So thank you again, James, and blessings to each and every one. And I'll be back here next week. Stay tuned in. There's more programming coming up after this one now. Bye for now, everybody.
Blessings
Thank you,
all.
James.